Like, can I say that this is a pervy look? Like this. Oh shit, hang on, get it back on. Hi and welcome to this week's Makeup Masterclass, where today I'm going to show you how I created the Autumn-Winter 19 Vivienne Westwood Pinocchio look. The show is all about theatre. We had lots of different characters, but this was definitely my favourite and the most fun to create. So first you're going to take your prosthetic nose, like this. This I just bought online. There are loads of really good special effects websites like Grimace, Red Carpet Effects that sell all of this kind of thing. So you'll take your nose and then take a little bit of Prosthetic cream, and I'm just gonna paint it around the edges like this, and a little bit on the bottom. Be careful of the nostrils because you don't want it to get in your model's nostrils, obviously. And then you just place it on to the nose like this. While you wait for the nose to dry, you can actually get your model to just place a finger on the top of the nose bridge just to kind of hold it in place while it dries, and you can carry on. So the next step is to create texture all over the face. The cool thing about Vivienne Westwood is the fact that there's this kind of very high couture-ish element to it, but there's also a kind of a DIY feeling. So rather than creating a really perfect Pinocchio face, I wanted to make it feel a little bit more grotty and a bit more DIY. So I'm adding in these layers of texture that I'm going to create with latex and tissue. It's very, very simple. So basically, you just get your latex and a plate, and then you want to just take little pieces of tissue, tear them up, dip them in the latex and place them on the face, and that'll begin to create some texture. So I'm gonna make a couple of tears like this, sort of medium to small size. Next, take a brush and just paint little areas of the face like this, and then stick your piece of tissue on top, and that will create some texture. And just warn your model in advance that latex is incredibly stinky, because that can come as a bit of a surprise to some people. And then I like to just take that latex and just put a little bit more sort of in patchy areas just around the face, just to give it a little bit more kind of texture before you put the paint on top. So just let that dry, and then you can begin the next step, which is painting the Pinocchio into the design. So I'm going to be working mostly with beige and brown tones and a little bit of white just for the highlights. The wood effect will be created using a really, really dark brown, so it really stands out against the beige background, but you kind of want it to feel quite skin coloured overall. So I'm going to start with this beigey colour. You want to just cover the whole face. That's the first step. I'm going to begin by really blocking out the whole face in beige. And don't forget to go along your nose. So when you've done that base layer, now you can start picking out little bits of those tissue to kind of create even more of a 3D effect. So just gonna get a pair of scissors or tweezers and just begin to kind of lift away bits of the tissue like this. You see it coming off like that, and that will create a kind of feeling of bark. It's coming away really nicely just there. I'm gonna pull a little bit of it away here. Good idea if you use 4-ply for this, and then you can really get some good texture from the tissue. So now I'm gonna take a slightly darker beigey color. I'm gonna go for something like this, and I'm gonna begin creating some shadows in the eye sockets and then also around the kind of bits of tissuey bark. Gonna go into the eye sockets. And all of these little details will just help to kind of create a little bit more of a sort of a realistic textural face. And it also helps to disguise the fact that you've kind of added an extra layer of material. And I'm basically just adding in what would essentially kind of be shadows. I'm gonna put a little bit under the lip, just here, and under the chin, and also under the nose. It's really important that you sculpt the nose out as much as the rest of the face. So the next step is to introduce some highlight. So I'm gonna be using this MAC white, and I'm basically gonna be doing the reverse of what I was just doing with the shadowy color. So I'm gonna be going on to the highlights. I'm just going to create some highlights down the tip of the nose and also on the cheekbones and all of the kind of high points that you'd naturally highlight if you were doing just a highlight and contour look. So now I'm going to splatter the face with a toothbrush, some alcohol and a little bit of the dark air brown colours to introduce even more texture before I do the final woodwork. Take a little bit of your airbrush colour and pop it onto a little plate, a little bit of alcohol in there, and then take a toothbrush, close your eyes for me, and you want to just spray it all over like this. And I'm going to do this a couple of times with a dark colour and then also with the white on top. And the more you spray around the kind of little bits of texture that you've created, again, the better kind of disguised they will be. You can actually change the pressure of releasing the bristles to give you a slightly thicker splatter. So when you do it quite slowly, it kind of creates a thicker texture, whereas if you're doing quick ones, the splatter will be much smaller. So you can mix it up. I like to do bigger splatters around the highlights, like cheekbone, jawbone, and then obviously a little bit on the neck. And I'm just going to go just around the tissued areas. Final step is to just do a little bit more contouring. So I'm now going to do Francois's cheeks, a bit more under the nose, a little bit in the eye sockets, and a little bit down the neck. So take your darkest, deepest brown, hit the insides of the brows like that, under the nose, a little bit on the cheeks. So the final step is to create those grainy wood-like kind of patterns on the face. So I'm going to mix a brown and a black in the airbrush. I'll show you how to mix it. And then I'm going to begin drawing lines all the way down Francois's face from the top of his head down to his neck. The chin is going to become like a bit of a spiral, and then I'm going to make kind of a spirally shape down the nose as well. To mix the colour, if you want to take the darkest brown and then a little bit of black, I just put like a couple of drops in. And then the way to mix it is to get some tissue, put the tissue over the top so you don't get a splatter, and then push your thumb into the end of the airbrush and kind of turn it on, and that'll force the air up through the airbrush, and you can kind of basically mix the colour actually in there. So now you have a really good browny colour that comes out like that. So I'm just gonna bring it down in like a wiggly line all the way down the face like that, all the way up. And I'm using on a really kind of fine setting here so I can get that nice kind of wood grain texture. And I'm going to take this one up into 2 strands here, a curl of the nose around there. And then on the chin, I'm going to do these little circles like this. Up into the corner of Francois's mouth, a bit like puppet lines. And then I'm going to go up this side. You can just make it up as you go along. You can use the little bits of texture if you want to. You can get the wood grain to kind of go around them like that. See, I've kind of gone both ways around that little piece of texture, and the same here. You can just kind of bring the airbrush around it, and that'll help to disguise it even more. I like to go up into the ears just to kind of make it feel like a continuous part of the makeup look. Ears are the always kind of give it away, so if you can kind of incorporate them, it'll make your look even stronger. And then if you can, just do a tiny little circle at the end of the nose, a little bit like what you've done on the chin. And then I'm just going to go into the lip as well up here. So that was how I created the Pinocchio look for Vivienne Westwood's Autumn Winter 19 show. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took some techniques away from that. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next week.